Hello everyone and welcome to the demo for Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, part of a 24-hour commission I received from Big J to play 24 hours of Muso games for the channel. I hope he's been patient while he's watched me review my second favorite episode of My Little Pony instead. The demo contains the first two main stages and some open world challenges. We're going to be looking at the two main stages in this video and talking about the game mechanics and stuff, because I like to do that and I like Muso games.
I must protect everyone.
Listen well, soldiers of Hyrule. In our long history, we have scarcely faced a threat of this magnitude. The years have passed quickly since Calamity Ganon's revival was prophesied. Yes, we have unearthed the divine beasts and filled volumes with our knowledge of ancient relics. But a barricade of books will not protect us. This way surges a horde like we have never faced before. Even now, the enemy is clawing for our throat. For Hyrule Castle itself. We must exterminate the monsters roaming Hyrule Field. Thus, we'll begin our renewed effort to stop the Calamity. Here, now, go forth, and be brave for your kingdom!
For the majority of this demo, we're going to be playing as Link. Link has the traditional Musou combo system going on, where you mix light and heavy attacks. You can press light attack once, and then heavy attack immediately after for a combo. You can press light attack twice, and then heavy attack immediately after for a second combo. Light attack 3 times, and heavy attack immediately after for another different combo. And Link's special thing seems to be that if you hold the X button after a combo, you get to perform a special technique when you let go of the X button again. Which technique he performs seems to depend entirely on which combo you're holding the X button after. If you hold and release X after a level 2 combo, he does a bunch of quick slashes right in front of him. If you hold and release it after a level 3 combo, he dashes forward and then slashes. Just quite a bit of variety in his combos, all things considered. He can also fire arrows, which is his unique character action, and there are uses for that, of course, as there's a use for everything in Musou games. If you're running long enough, then Link breaks out into a sprint, and you can press the X button during a sprint, and he'll ride his shield through enemies. Doesn't really deal damage to them, but it's really cool looking. Just like in the first Hyrule Warriors, there are large enemies that we can lock onto and dodge around. If we dodge at just the right time, they become extra vulnerable, and we can do a flurry attack. They also become vulnerable on their own after they use certain moves or heavy attacks, and if we deplete the gauge that appears when they're vulnerable, then we get to do a finishing blow on them, which, as far as I know, just destroys them completely when we use it. Even though this game follows the structure of most Musou games where there's a ton of small enemies and then combat against larger foes called officers, or just, I guess they're big monsters with health bars in this game, it is the case that combat in Nintendo Musou games against officers feels different from other Musou titles. Anyway, we're in our first fort. The fort also has a health bar that goes down as we defeat enemies, and after we lower the health bar a certain amount, a large enemy will appear, another officer, if you will. The game says we can press A to do a special attack. By special attack, it means our Musou attack when that little bar underneath our hearts is full. It just wipes out a huge number of enemies and deals massive damage. We're going to use it right now. See, that officer was rendered utterly destroyed, pretty much, by our Musou attack. Our Musou meter fills when we defeat enemies. Or just get hits on enemies, I'm not entirely sure, but basically when you defeat enemies, it goes up, and that's the important thing. Like all Musou games, there's a lot of optional things to be done on the map besides the main objectives. The main objectives are glowing yellow, and they involve taking bases and defeating specific officers. But there are other keeps and bases we can take over that don't involve the main objective, and we're going to be doing that as well. There's actually a surprising amount of things that are optional, including tutorial stuff. The basics of a Musou game are still all here. It's definitely about conquering a battlefield and wiping out like thousands of enemies with your super overpowered primary character. But the challenge is a lot more present in this game than in most Musou games, even on normal mode, I would say. Oh, cutscene time.
You! Help! Ow! Huh? Why is this happening? It's a tower?
As I was saying, I think the challenge in Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, at least from the demo, is more apparent even on normal mode than in most Musou games. A lot of Musou games just really aren't meant to be challenging unless you go out of your way to make it challenging in specific fashions or challenge yourself in specific fashions, but combat with officers seems like it requires a bit... Oh, here's an explosive barrel. We're gonna hit it. It's gonna hurt us. But not as much as it fucking hurts the enemies, that's for goddamn sure. Anyway, as I was saying, combat with officers in Age of Calamity seems like it encourages paying attention a lot more than other Musou games. Not that you have to pay attention or anything. Also, we can throw bombs now and summon ice and chain things with ethereal chains and also grab things with a giant magnet because in that last cutscene we got the Sheikah Slate, I think is what it's called. It's the Wii U game tablet from Breath of the Wild, so now we can do all the things you can do in Breath of the Wild, but in a Musou game instead. But yeah, I think also there's no way to shoot the explosive barrel from this range. The accuracy just isn't there, so we're going to have to get closer. I keep interrupting myself, but interesting things keep happening in the game, so that's probably good. But yeah, I think this game encourages paying attention a little more than most Musou games. And if you're wondering what a Musou game is, I'm going to jump over these guys because they throw clubs. If you're wondering what a Musou game is, most people seem to call it crowd brawler who aren't familiar with the term. Basically, it means games like Dynasty Warriors, usually made by Koei Tecmo. I feel like if you've been watching my channel or are familiar with me from anywhere in time besides this moment, then you already know what a Musou game is, though, and that I love them, and that I've definitely played my fair share of Dynasty Warriors Gundam, and Kin's Rage, and also Sengoku Basara. I think that's how you say it. I'm not sure how you say the word Basara. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. But yes, there's already Devil Kings and Sengoku Basara and Dynasty Warriors Gundam and Kin's Rage and even Mystic Heroes on my channel. And, you know, I'm happy for any excuse to play more Musou games on the channel. So being commissioned to play 24 hours of Musou games seems like a good excuse, you know? Seems like a pretty good excuse. And I didn't even know Age of Calamity had a demo until like 3 days ago, so might as well start here. You know, it's quick, it's easy, there's a lot of exciting stuff to talk about. I get to blow up explosive barrels and watch enemies go flying through the air like ragdolls. And it's all a lovely distraction from my various mental and physical issues that are of medical concern. So it's a positive for everyone. Something that I am a bit confused about in this game is why they decided that the normal enemies should have their health bars turned off by default. Maybe that's due to focus testing, like they found out that people that play the Nintendo Musou games don't really like the health bars on smaller enemies or something. But in most Musou games, every enemy has a health bar, and seeing those red bars everywhere gives me a sort of deeply rooted satisfaction. Makes me want to destroy them. It is the case that when some enemies perform certain actions, they are particularly weak to the abilities we can use with the Sheikah Slate, the ones from Breath of the Wild. So that's important to keep a lookout for, just one more nuance to the combat with officers. Something I've noticed about the Age of Calamity demo is that, I mean, I played the demo multiplayer first with my roommate, and the frame rate is pretty bad. Like, it gets pretty stinky at some points, and I'm used to that. I've played a lot of Japanese action games where the frame rate just tanks, and I'm fine with it. But it feels weird that it's happening on the Switch in a Nintendo, for like second, third party. It still has Nintendo's name and characters in it. Feels weird that they're okay with that. Not that it's a big deal to me. It's just odd. I'm the absolute last person to complain about frame rate drops unless it literally makes the game unplayable. It just struck me as unusual. It's not to say that Koei Tecmo's normal Musou games are of lesser quality or are expected to have less polish or anything. So we can use the Cryonis ability over water and freeze enemies who are standing in it, which makes them immediately vulnerable and allows us to deal additional damage. so much damage that we don't even get to use the finishing blow on this guy. I kill him too quick using the Cryonis ability. The game asked us a while ago now to switch characters to Impa, I think, because she's been fighting, well, more accurately, she's been standing next to a Fire Wizrobe for quite some time, but we never have to do that. We can finish the level without dealing with that Fire Wizrobe or switching to Impa at all. And we are going to deal with the level without switching to Impa. I have her saved for something special later. But we're still going to fight that Fire Wizrobe next to her just because I want to. Just because I think it's fun. I like clearing the officers out of a map. And this map lets me do that. Sometimes in Musou games it's not so easy to clear a map out. But this is the first map, so it's not all that hard. There is a rumble every time you get hit. If you're playing in handheld mode, by the way. And that surprised me the first time, but I think it's a really good addition, because even though there is feedback for getting hit besides the rumble helps a lot. Did not react in time to use Cryonis. If I did use it in time, he would have charged into a giant ice block, and that would have made destroying him a lot easier. It's also important to memorize which button the various Sheikah Slate abilities are mapped to. Alright, so we completed the primary objective. And we don't have to go deal with that Wizrobe, because now another objective will trigger that's completely separate from the Wizrobe that Impa's next to, but we're going to go fight the Wizrobe anyway, and learn more about the level layout in the process. I also think Hyrule Field looks lovely in this game, by the way. There is a fair amount of pop-in, but who gives a shit? There are a lot of enemies, so of course there's going to be some pop-in. The Wizrobes can, like, float out of range of your attacks sometimes, but you can always throw bombs at them using the Sheikah Slate. I really hope that's what it's called. I'm gonna feel dumb if that's not what it's called. It's the Wii U tablet thing that gives you the Breath of the Wild abilities. Anyway, you can throw bombs at them, or shoot arrows at them, even while they're hovering out of range of your attacks. And that's fun. But the bombs also happen to be what you can break their guard with to make them extra vulnerable. So just bombs in general are really good against the Wizrobe enemies. I do want to say that although I don't really have any affection for the Zelda games, like, at all, I do appreciate that the original Hyrule Warriors is, well, it made a major contribution in people not shitting on Musou games as much. Like, there were always fans of Musou games, but before Hyrule Warriors, there weren't nearly as many, and most people thought Musou games were a massive joke, and you only played them if you hated yourself and loved bad games and had no life. They just didn't see the appeal in Musou games, and a lot of people still don't, and that's fine. But something can be enjoyable and good and fun, even if you don't get the appeal yourself. I feel like that's important to remember. Like, Musou games definitely belong to a niche audience, but glad to see it's expanding. Expanding enough to get Nintendo spin-offs, no less. And supporting Hyrule Warriors and Age of Calamity is a good idea, even if I don't like Zelda anyway, because I want to see other Nintendo games maybe in Musou format. Like, I like some Fire Emblem games, but it's already promising that Fire Emblem Warriors came out, right? Like, I may not love all of the games and may not understand what's going on most of the time in Fire Emblem Warriors story-wise, but that's still promising. That means that maybe sometime we can have a Musou game from Nintendo without people that use swords. Like, where's my Pokemon Musou? I mean, I joke, but really, I want to see Mario in a Musou game. I'm not even, like, that attached to Mario as a character, but I just really, really want to see them put a platforming mascot in a Musou game super bad. And if you can't do that, then, you know, you should hit up Konami, Koei, and look into getting a Bomberman Musou going. I think that's pretty far-fetched. Not enough people play Bomberman or Musou games for that to work out. Speaking of the variety of Musou games, it's really hard, actually, I think impossible, to find a list of all of the Musou games and Musou game spin-offs and unofficial Musou games. Like, this genre has been really hard to properly document. Like, I found one that seemed pretty dedicated, but it was last updated like 3 years ago. But at least it mentioned things like Buccaneer. Yeah, that's right, there was a game that tried to be a Musou game on the PS2 called Buccaneer. It was pirate-themed. All of the officers during this final confrontation have little gimmicks near them that make them fun to take out. And the one near the last guy is an explosive barrel, so we'll get to see what fire does to officers, finally. I bet you've been waiting the whole map to see that. And if you haven't been, then you should have been, because it's really important for the next level. Well, not really important, but kind of important. Alright, so let's hit that explosive barrel, and we'll see what fire does to an officer. It makes them super vulnerable. The gauge stays around them for longer, they stay stunned for way longer, and your attacks seem to deal way more damage to them. It's nuts how great fire is against some officers. We're going to need to remember that. Alright, level's over. Only one more.
Good.
An inexplicable guardian. And a mysterious tower. I hate to say it, but we have little hope of figuring this out on our own. Hey, what are you? No! Stop right there!
Each of you has served your kingdom admirably. Huh!
You made it! I'm glad you're safe, Impa.
Yes, Your Highness. And I've received the Sheikah slate from Pora. Oh!
Oh! What is that?
Your Highness.
The Sheikah slate conveyed the little guardian's purpose. This anomalous visitor had traveled from a future of ruin, a time in the midst of the Calamity, to save Princess Zelda. Impa proposed recruiting Pura and Robbie, renowned researchers of ancient technology, to study the Guardian and investigate the mysterious tower that had appeared on Hyrule Field. King Rome of Hyrule gave his assent. Zelda, curious about the diminutive Guardian, decided to accompany Impa on her journey to Pura's research facility in Hateno. With Link acting as bodyguard, they made their way to the ancient tech lab.
is it so attached to me? Whatever could you be, little one? I suppose all we can do is wait for Robbie and the others at the lab to analyze it.
Agreed, Your Highness. A guardian? But why? And monsters too. Now, of all times.
Alright, second level time, and yes, we are still playing as Link. I know we're still playing as Link. We'll play as Impa in a minute. Something that I definitely haven't done is learn the timing for all of the perfect dodges to enable flurry attacks. Like I said really quickly earlier, if you dodge at just the right time, dodge an officer's attack at just the right time, I mean, you can do a flurry attack, which means a quicker succession of attacks than you normally get, and it makes the enemy vulnerable. And I haven't quite gotten the timing down on that yet, and the timing is a little different for every enemy, obviously, but I feel like if you get the timing down for every officer just right, or you just have amazing reflexes, then that would certainly make officers a piece of cake to defeat. Not that they're amazingly difficult to fight. But this fight against this moblin, I'm trying to, like, figure out exactly when is too late to dodge, what all the moves a moblin has are. Like, it's, probably not something I'm ever gonna figure out. Not because it's not worth learning, but maybe I just don't want to bother. Anyway, the primary objective for this level is to get Zelda... Oh, hold on. I hate to interrupt myself again, but we get to use the magnetic power now. Magnesis can lift up objects and shoot them at enemies with our giant glowing magnet. And it's really fun, for the same reason explosive barrels are fun. Just so many ragdolls. We can also use magnesis to grab enemy weapons if they're using metal weapons. And we also have access to stasis, which we can use to chain enemies in place. Extra useful. There's just so many options for dealing with officers in this game. So many. As I was saying, the primary objective in the first half of this level is to get Zelda from point A to point B. It's an escort mission, but I haven't really paid attention to Zelda's well-being at all during this level, the few times I've played it, and I don't think it's really important to. I think unless you're incredibly negligent, she'll probably be just fucking fine. And I do mean incredibly negligent. More negligent than I've been when I completely ignored her and just focused on doing whatever I wanted to in the level. Because pretty much everything you can do in the level involves protecting her, whether you like it or not. And now to veer completely off topic, talking about things only tangentially related to this game. Koei, maybe you should try, I know this is a novelty, but maybe try releasing Muso games without a fuck ton of DLC, or any DLC. Not that the DLC is bad. I know Dynasty Warriors 9 only had one DLC, but maybe try it without any next time, just for fun. Alright, the Guardian's here, time to finally play as Impa. So Impa's playstyle is completely different from Link's. We can use Impa to mark enemies with symbols, and then press the X button to absorb the symbols off of that enemy. We can absorb up to 3 symbols, and for each symbol we absorb, we gain clones of ourselves, which makes us deal even more damage because we have clones of us attacking alongside us. And getting all 3 symbols enables us to use a special Muso when we fill our Muso while having all 3 symbols active, and the 3 symbols will gradually disappear. So we want to get our Muso meter full while all 3 symbols are still active. Also, doing flurry dodges against the Guardian I find to be easier than with other officers for some reason. Here's our special Muso that only activates when we have all of our clones. You're actually not supposed to fight the Guardian. You can see that the objective says to avoid fighting the Guardian. But now that we've caught it on fire with that fire rod we picked up from some Wiz Robes in the first level, I don't think we need to avoid the Guardian. I don't think we need to avoid it at all. I think we can take it down. I think it's just a big old pushover for someone who's more familiar with general action games. But don't get me completely wrong, I wouldn't want to fight this thing as Link. The more powerful Musou brought on by Impa's clones and the more damage brought on by Impa's clones allow us to kill this thing a lot quicker. That's what I was saving her for, just to show off how great her gimmick is, really. How it completely changes the way the playstyle works and how you can completely demolish this fucking boss that you're not even supposed to be fighting using her. It's great fun. And even though I think I definitely prefer Link's more straightforward playstyle to Impa's, if this ever happens again, I'm definitely going to be using Impa for it. Just because it's easy to absolutely destroy tanks with her from what I'm seeing in this demo. Also, for full disclosure, I haven't touched Zelda. There's only like the 2 main levels in the demo. And you get Zelda after this level, and I didn't want to replay the other 2 levels. So, I just focused on showing off Link and Impa, and you're going to have to live with that. We'll play as Zelda some other time, whenever this game actually comes out. Anyway, this was the Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity demo. It has some good stuff. I like the officers' combat a lot. I like the character nuances. I think they're a great improvement from the Hyrule Warriors character nuances so far. And it's probably a great step forward for getting more general audiences interested in Musou games. I don't really care about Zelda or Breath of the Wild, and I'm missing a lot of context as to what's going on in the story, but I'm still excited to play this one just because it's a Musou game made by Koei Tecmo, and those are pretty great.
This is technology, the likes of which I've never laid eyes on. Which means we've got ourselves a brand new, never-before witnessed Guardian model! Devices like the Sheikah Slate, which are amplified by the power of such ancient relics, are but a meager fragment of such technology.
I see. That explains why all of us were able to use the Sheikah Slate.
In addition, this here doohickey is loaded with data. Information we can't even fathom.
Aw, yeah! Check it. I extracted some visual data from the Guardian's memory.
Is that...
Yup, no doubt about it. Hyrule Castle after Calamity Ganon has been revived.
As you can see, we managed to extract some of the data, but much of it was fragmented. Even so, if I analyze what we received, I may be able to make sense of more of it.
This is the ruin the Calamity will bring upon all of Hyrule. If we allow this to pass, I fear all hope will be lost.
Even everything we've done up until now likely won't be enough.
If I don't succeed at sealing the Calamity... Never. This will not come to pass.
To stop Calamity Ganon, It was crucial that they possess the sword that seals the darkness, the latent power dwelling within the Princess of Hyrule, and the might of the 4 divine beasts unearthed from across the land. However, the path to victory was strewn with obstacles. Korok Forest, where the legendary sword slept, had been overrun by monsters, and the Princess of Hyrule's power showed no signs of awakening. Lamenting the kingdom's plight, King Rome sent his daughter to gather pilots for the divine beasts. Alongside Link, whose brave conduct had earned him a role as her knight, Zelda would meet with each of the 4 candidates. You intend to let this relic follow you around, hmm?
Yes. After talking to Pura and Robbie, we thought it would be best.
I will remind you once again. Above all else, your duty is of the utmost importance. Are we clear?
Yes, we are clear. I understand. And I will honor my duty.